Hello good people and welcome back to Level Up Your Chess Strategy. It's part 9. Now have a look at this position. You play as black here in a game played by the 11th world champion. You may have heard of him. He's the legendary super grandmaster Bobby Fischer. In this position, white attempts to bully your central squares. Essentially, squares there by pushing e5. White has a strong center, evidently. And you play knight to e8. Opponent plays f5. There's 4 pawns attacking the center there. It looks daunting if you don't understand the concept of central squares. But there is one thing to differentiate the position. It's that the white king is not developed, has a strong center, and the black king is quite developed with a nice fianchetto there. How did Bobby Fischer respond here? What is his strongest response? The answer, of course, in the video. Let's boost that ELO. Let's get it.
Round 1. Fight!
So quick recap, guys. The central squares is generally this 4x4 central squares that you want to put your pieces on, primarily pawns, or attack indirectly, primarily with the bishops, fianchettoing. If you can't occupy the center, attack it indirectly. So, this game, which I'll flip, was played in 1960 in Leipzig between René Letelier-Marner and Robert James Fischer, who plays as black. Oh, before I begin, before I forget, if you find this content tolerable, it's useful, and it's somewhat helping you in your chess journey, please leave a like and sub. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. So it starts with d4, knight to f6 by black, c4, g6, knight to c3, and bishop to g7. Black's going for, or Bobby's going for the king's Indian defense. We're not talking about how to play openings here, but of course the concepts will come in, because you don't want to blunder the first couple moves. But the concept of central squares, and then central tension is important. So now we have e4. Castle king pushes away. We're arriving at that position. f4. So in the concept of central squares, what does the opponent have? The opponent is looking to occupy this. And the goal is for us as black, completely developed with an semi-active, actually biting at the granite here, the dark squares, because there's dark square pawns in there. What is the strongest response to counterattack to gain some central squares? And in this kind of concept, how to chew through these pawns and make them weak? Well, the answer in 3, 2, and 1, and that is the simple but strong d6. See, if white takes, either take with a piece or the pawn, that diminishes the power of the pawn phalanx. This is the main concept when your opponent's trying to bully you into center, is you develop fast and then attack the pawns, attack the root of the pawn. In this position, white played bishop to e3, and then c5 comes in. It looks like you're giving away free pawns, but you're not. There's a compensation. We call that compensation. And here, c takes. Of course, in this position, taking here is a blunder, spaghetti-o, and a complete dishonor to your family and all the chess players. You should join the 100 ELO chess club because you drop your queen. So no, after d takes on c5, knight to c6. Now just quick backtrack. You're probably wondering, after c5, what if e takes on d6? You'll notice that the pawn phalanx has been released. The tension has been released. So the idea here is actually not to counter capture and just counter capture pawns and match 1-to-1 vis-a-vis. You play knight to c6, and Fischer was aiming for 1 to destroy the central squares, and then 2 piece activity. So after knight to c6 takes, you have bishop takes. And now look at this lovely and very bad triple pawn chain. After takes, takes, knight to d6. Qualitative distinction here in the position. This is positional chess. This is chess strategy. The king is very exposed, and the pawns are now what we call broken and useless. These three pieces are underdeveloped, and the king in the middle is going to suffer the consequences quick. It's not a deliberate forced mate, but you can just tell qualitatively that you have moves like rook to e1, bishop 2. These two pawns are basically going to be a liability for white. So after c5, d takes, knight to c6, c takes, e takes d, and here the opponent plays knight to e4. In chess, when you try to hold on to material so much and it's not conducive to what the plan is to develop for white, because right now black is trying to chew through the middle pawns. The appropriate move is knight to f3, maintain the tension, and that's central squares and central tension. You develop a piece, you don't take or protect, you maintain central tension. And after knight to e4, that's what we call kind of greedy, you know? So bishop to f5, if not all of black's minor pieces are developed. You just attack that, and you ask it, and after you've asked it, where do you want to go? The opponent played knight to g3, which is another questionable move, and now black is in the driver's seat here, because this idea to attack the pawn on d6, if it's being attacked, it being the knight, it's better to dilute the position here instead of allowing black to further consolidate and capitalize on more piece activity. So here, knight takes on d6, takes, and queen takes, offering black a trade, but also minimizing and mitigating the possible damage of much, like basically black having much more activity. And here, knight to g3. Knight to g3 does many things, and that includes this allowing any of these three pieces to be developed and not trying to dilute the position. So basically, watch this nightmare as it unfolds for white. Bishop to e6, avoiding the trade, hitting c4, knight to f3. Yay, we have central tension. Bishop to c7. Now, it's not in black's interest to take. At least if you're Bobby Fischer. Maybe if you're Carlsen or Karpov and you can just outplay this and you enjoy those kind of positional grinds. Because after takes and takes and takes, you're up material here. This is actually threatened, but it's a positional grind, and Bobby wants to absolutely demolish the guy. So after knight to f3, queen to c7, avoiding the exchange, putting tension on d6, queen to b1, and d takes, f5, e4 by Bobby. Bobby could have taken here, and it would have led to some a bloody counterattack. Bobby was trying to avoid that completely. Say g takes f5, knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes f5. You'll have knight to d6 with an amazing level of central control. Now you have the central squares as black, bishop to g4, and then hit. And then hit. You have both the center. But Bobby did not want that. He wanted to cause absolute chaos in the position. So after f5 by the opponent, he counter-replied with this. And he was really gutsy, and the gutsy move, because his king is safe. This king is in troubled waters, as we would say. So after takes, he took. And now completely shattering the king side, still the king hanging out in the middle. He plays f5. At first you think maybe take here and attack. Nope. He does this by... I can't draw squares. Anyways, attacking both these pieces and devaluing this pawn, calling it useless. f4. Knight to f6. Bishop to e2. And now rook to e8. Trying to x-ray here. The king moved to f2. Mind you, it's better to just simply castle. And after takes, bishop to c5. Black is outstandingly better in this position with that rook that's acting like a pawn. And you can likely double here. You have control of the central squares. You have this. But, of course, king to f2 leads further into Bobby's plan of absolutely savagely attacking the opponent. Here, he starts with rook to e6, capturing the pawn, rook to e1, and now rook a to e8, doubling. It's black in the driver's seat. Bobby's not going to let this go. I mean, he's a super grandmaster. Bishop to f3, and now you have a possible brilliancy. I got to contain myself there. Can you see the tactic? Now that we have this idea, and you can't let go of this bishop because that drops. You have ideas here on e4 and g4. And your queen's kind of nagging that pawn on f4. What did Bobby Fischer play here? The answer in 3, 2, and 1. Bobby Fischer sacrifices the rook. And after takes, rook takes. And now he's captured the poison rook because the answer in 3, 2, 1. Bobby sacrifices the queen, and the opponent resigned here, flat out. If he took, then that's a check. No escape squares. That is a checkmate. He resigned because if he didn't take, his next option is king to f2. But now you have this move, knight to g4. And you could go here and suffer massive damage. I'm just going to go through the lines. King to e1 takes. But now this is a problem. That's a problem. So a check here. Soon to be checked there on g2 is just game over. You got to sack the queen. And after f2, if you go the other way, after the check to say king to g2, then you have knight to e3, and this is trapped. This is trapped because, well, there's a pin, but also there's no way to defend that responsibly. Play chess responsibly, guys. You have to put your queen there. And it's just, yeah, takes. What to do but resign. So the opponent resigned. So quick recap, guys. d4, knight to f6, c4. g6, knight to c3, bishop to g7, e4. Castle. Complete king's Indian defense. The opponent pushes on e5. Pushes on f4. And now Bobby plays the responsible and, well, on point d6. You've developed. There's pawns hanging out in the middle. You have a fianchetto. Why don't you hit one of those pawns to weaken it? Bishop to e3, c5 hit the base of the pawn. D takes, knight to c6. Incredible. Well, if you know the theory, you're like, oh no, that's just what you play. It's not just what you play. It's for us mere mortals, it's important to understand why you have to play that. So, piece activity. And then doubling the pawn too. After takes. The opponent gets a little greedy trying to protect here. Instead of just playing knight to f3 and maybe queen to e5. Attacking and potentially attacking there. Nope. Alas, knight to e4. Bishop to f5. Another piece hitting the middle and activity. And now, instead of just taking here, takes and then threatening to dilute the position. White compounds on his blunder and plays knight to g3. And after bishop to e6, after things happen, Bobby opens up the position, threatens a fork, hits, Opponent blunders instead of finally castling. Takes, takes. Sacrificing the rook. Sacrificing the queen. Game's over. Zip takes. Checkmate. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. A lot to learn about central squares there. It's pretty stuff, actually. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you guys later. Double peace.